So we're back with episode 5 of Nizi Project 2, the search for a JYP boy group. This is the continuation of the dance evaluation. So we've got about, I would say, 7 dance evaluations left to go through, but they only show one more and they summarize the rest. And so the person we actually get to see right here is Komori Yuhi, and I think I got his name wrong last time I wrote it down, but I corrected it later on. And so this is him. He's a JYP trainee. He'd been training or studying this stuff for 3 years. According to every other member of this kind of like competition, he's got a happy, cute boy aura about him. He auditioned in Seoul, and JYP, he liked his speed and dancing and thought those were good. And so when we get to his actual performance, so I thought he was very energetic, but also he was kind of out of pocket in some ways in the beginning. But other than that, he looked like he was having fun. But I'm just not sure why. But there were several points where he was dancing, and it just didn't connect right with me. There was something kind of off about it. And so JYP, the way he looked at this was that he said the main problem with this guy, and really his only problem, is that he doesn't know how to use his joints well. And so because of that, his movements don't look big, but he otherwise still liked it. And then he kind of gave this impromptu lesson about how you get your hands and feet to look longer, and that's by using the joints hidden in your torso, like their shoulder blade and stuff, and probably like the hip if you're doing your legs. And so he was kind of like trying to give him advice on how to make himself look bigger when he's reaching, instead of, and he kind of gives him a live demonstration with his arm as well. And so that is Yuhi. I don't think he gets a stone right away. He might get one later on. Something kind of happens later on where several people get the gemstone, or the cube as they call it. But I don't think he gets it right after his performance. But then after that, they start showing the next guy, who's Takahashi Ryo. And basically he says that he needs to improve on making each move accurate. But they didn't show enough for me to judge. And then they also didn't show enough of everybody else. And so they summarized everyone else, including Takahashi Taichi, Inagaki Taichi, Yamaguchi Takao, Wataru Shoke, and Inamoto Yuto. And so a whole bunch of people basically just get smoothed over, and he just has like very like vague comments about them. But they're basically people who don't get cubes, and JYP must think that they're not worthy of cubes. And also for those guys, I would also be worried about them, because like Yuto and the Tokyo Taichi, the Taichi from Tokyo. There's 2 Taichis. One of them's from Tokyo, and those guys, they kind of have like a smaller frame, and maybe kind of like they're not as strong builded in the body as some of the other guys. And so he kind of just goes past them, and then he speaks with his guest judges for ranking, and he ends up giving out rankings. And so the first ones we find out about are basically the top 9, and then after the top 9, he starts handing bonus cubes out. And so he hands out the bonus cubes to 5 more people, including my favorite guy, Tomiyasu Yu. And so he becomes number 10 right after Sodai, who's like one of the JYP trainees and favorites, I would say. And then also he gave bonuses to Takahashi Taichi, that's the Tokyo Taichi. He gave it to Nishiyama Yuki, that's kind of like the effeminate looking, kind of like gender bender kind of guy. He gave one to Fujimaki Taiga, and he also gave one to Takahashi Ryo. And so those guys got the dance cubes later on, and then the rest of these guys, who are pretty much summarized except for maybe one of them, they just got summarized, and you didn't really get to see their performance like at all. And so that's pretty much it. Unfortunately for these 6, no cubes, including one of the Taichis, which is the Taichi from Kanagawa, which is Inagaki Taichi. And so now there's a competition here between the 2 Taichis. I don't know if you can have 2 people with the same first name in a group. I know it happens, like it happened in Big Bang. It happened in like in some other groups. Like I think Big Bang, when they were first building the group, they had 3 people with the same first name or something, and then one of them didn't make the group, and then they ended up getting like kind of like these different names, kind of stage names. But anyways, that's these guys. And so we'll get back into it. And now what happens after that is we go into the vocal evaluation. By the way, I almost lost my notes for this show, and luckily I was able to recover it uh, because I'm recording my screen sometimes, and so I'm reading screen recordings of my own notes because I record my screen while I'm watching the show, and I take my notes in real time. But luckily, I have a notepad open. It didn't save, but luckily I'm able to read my recordings of my own screen. So uh, we get to the vocals, and it starts off with you, who's like one of my top guys who identified. And so what we know from Audition is that he has an unstable pitch. He didn't know the basics, and so on his own, he decided to practice scales and high pitched sounds. And he practiced a lot, but he was still really scared the night before, and he wasn't confident in his voice. He doesn't even like his voice apparently. But then the main issue here is that he doesn't seem to know how to practice, and when other people kind of talk to him, he kind of just seems like he doesn't want to take the steps required to practice, like recording his own voice and listening to himself. But even if he did that, I'm not even sure if he would have the ear to really hear how to get it right. And that's disappointing for me because I really like this guy. I feel like he should be trained and taught even like the basics of like the subtleties of like what's going on there. But in terms of his actual performance, he had a decent start. I feel like because his voice sounds really good. I personally really like his voice. You can tell that when he was getting to the mids of the vocal range, he was already feeling like a kind of ceiling that was straining him, and then he was off pitch, but you wouldn't really notice it if like a lot of a lot of like professional singers sing off pitch a lot of the time, and so because they can record their voice, they can keep taking multiple takes and get it right. But live, it doesn't really bother me. And if you see a live concert, it's not going to bother you a lot either, because you just go to concerts and they're always singing off. Like the first time I heard what is it, uh, One Republic, they couldn't sing live. They sing a lot better now live, but when I first heard them, they couldn't sing live at all. But anyways, we get to JYP's opinions here, and JYP says, unfortunately, he didn't change much on the things that he wanted him to change on, which is pitch, and then the pained sound at high pitch. And so, I guess very similar to what I noticed, he had some issues there. And he basically says, when you're singing high pitch, you don't want to sing harder. You still want to feel like and seem relaxed. And so there seems to be a lesson in there for him that even later on you'll see in this episode, even Sodai is unsure about. And so I feel like these kind of things should be like taught to them at least minimally, so that they can recognize how to fix it. And so I don't know if they need to get like independent vocal coaching for this part of the like early evaluation, but unfortunately, because I feel like he didn't even know what he was looking for, and for that reason he didn't get a cube. But his voice is still pleasing according to JYP, and I agree with that. I think his voice is actually really good. Like his performance didn't actually bother me. I just noticed like the subtleties that were off about it, but it wasn't like a deal breaker. Then we get to the next guy, and that's Sean. Now Sean was very worried. He performed really well in the dance evaluation, but he was under a lot of pressure to convey emotion like he did during his dance. Now, when he was singing, for me, I felt like his singing, when starting off, it was like kind of talk singing. And, JYP likes people who sing the way they talk, but I don't really mean it that way. I mean more kind of like he was actually just like unsure and talking through the song. Like he was kind of like, it's almost like when some people speak, they ask a question. Kind of like there's some people who do that. Like if every sentence they kind of lift it up at the end, like they're really unsure about it. And I felt like he was singing that way. Also, his face was really like kind of just stoic. Like he just kept the same expression the whole time. But other than that, I think he did okay. Actually, it didn't bother me, and it wouldn't bother me because, I mean, I know, like I said before, a lot of professional singers, and you go to their concerts, and they just don't sing that well, to be honest. But anyways, JYP, he kind of went at him and said, rhythm is good, and this song in particular, the one he sang, is not actually easy to keep rhythm with. And so he knew the song, and he's like, your pitch is not bad. But that he noticed and said that he had a confidence issue, and basically he had no expression and little movement. And according to JYP, he basically did not see emotion from him, which is kind of disappointing for him because he was so good at doing it during dance. And also he criticized him on relying on falsetto on his high pitch. And so that's JYP's expert opinion on it. We get to the next guy, and that's Hoshizawa Miraku. And this guy, apparently he never learned to sing, but he prepared really hard. And then it was kind of funny how he like introduced himself. Uh, 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 and he was like, apparently he's studying Korean, and he wanted to like communicate with JYP desperately in his own language, because he saw JYP and other people kind of like speaking Japanese. And so it was kind of funny because it's like a 14-year-old kid. It's like kind of like it's endearing, right, to see that he's like so eager. And so when he starts singing, I noticed that his voice was really deep in the beginning, and it kind of made me laugh. And I asked myself, is this a put on? Like, is he acting? I don't know the song, by the way. But I noticed that part way through he actually got better, especially like during rap sections. He's really good. And then like I would say he had maybe had breathing issues, or uh, the change in his voice was so drastic that I thought that maybe he was copying voices from the song. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the song. But we get to JYP's criticisms, and JYP basically says that he's better than he thought. And he has a great chance because the way he sings is like he's telling a story. And so JYP is basically saying there's a strong foundation there, but JYP still didn't give him a cube. And so I don't know if he was just being generous for some reason, but JYP seems to like this kid. And so, so far, vocal cubes are not being handed out. Three in a row, not doing well. I don't know if this show shows them all in order, by the way. I just assume that they do. But I feel like maybe they do cut them out for dramatic effect. Or there's some strategy to it. But I think like maybe it's in order. I just like to feel like it is. So the last guy is Mura Sodai, and he is JYP trainee. Now, when he was practicing in the back, people like Kohei and other trainees, like everyone, pretty much noticed that his voice was so good during practice, and everyone's just kind of like shocked, and they know that he's gonna be like, he's one of those guys you gotta attach to, you know. He's one of those people you gotta look up to. You ask for advice. Like that's the kind of person you cling to a little bit, and that's the person you want on your team because it gives you the better chance of like having a solid group. So Sodai is constantly proving himself, and even if he doesn't have like the necessary like appeal of someone who's like less talented, he's like really just inherently talented. So he starts singing, and he's actually really nervous. He wanted to sound relaxed in his high pitches. Now, for me, I felt it just sounded really good. Like, it's so smooth and controlled. When he went high, it was good for me. And even, like, it would flip to the judges. And it's like an all-female panel, and they all looked proud. And they're wearing face masks, too. So you have to, like, judge them completely by just their eyebrows. And they're, like, their eyebrows are going up, up, up and stuff. And you could tell that they liked it a lot. Now, JYP, at the end of his performance, gave him an instant cube. Didn't even mention anything at first. And so the curse is broken. Someone finally got a vocal cube. But JYP said basically, only criticism of him, but he liked it all. He liked his performance, but the only criticism he had is that he had to fix his apprehension that he had when he was approaching a high note, because he knew that he was in his own head. And because of that, his throat got constricted because he's trying to like prepare to pull it off. And JYP saying, "Don't do that. You do the high note is not something that you have to like reach for because you may be like you should be able to do it in a relaxed way." And so that's basically all the singers we get to see so far. There's only 4, and so that concerns me a bit because either there's gonna be two or three more episodes of vocals, or a whole bunch of people are gonna be summarized. And so that is this episode. There's no bingo for this episode. Once again, let's look at this the dance level evaluation really quickly first. So AG, who JYP says is basically his new reign, is at the top. And then you have Kohei, who's number 2, and Sean is number 3. Now that's interesting about these top 3 is they're not really center material, or even like really like well built or like good visuals kind of guys for the group. unless you're like unless you're building an all youth group. But judging by the rest of the talent he has there, like taller guys like number 4 Haru, anyway, visually decent looking guy, right? And then you have Tomoya, you have Sodai, like those guys are decently looking guys. You as well, and so you have these guys getting kind of stones retroactively. And I'm not really sure if you thought they all deserved it, but definitely a lot of people didn't get it as well. But more people got it than didn't get it, and so it looks like moving forward, dance is not really going to be an issue for these guys. Now get to the current roster. I've placed everything here. So a lot of people definitely got that dance stone, as you can see. Right, you got in the corner here. You got AG. Maybe I need to add more padding to this graphic so you guys can see it without getting cut off by the clouds. But so far, only person doing really well is Sodai. He's got 2 stones here. Yeah, the vocal stone and the dance stone. But I don't know if anyone else. It seems like I said, this like one episode you're only gonna see 4 guys, and it wasn't just like they were at the tail end of an episode because they were finishing the dance evaluations. They consumed a lot of time to show each of those 4 guys not getting stones, and so I feel like they're gonna summarize a lot of people who are not gonna do well vocally. That's just my prediction. I don't know if it's true, but I guess that's pretty much all I can say about it. So that's probably it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. You don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comment box down below. Also, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and then I'll see you in the next video.